Hello, my name is Ed Palmer. I'm Deputy Chief Economist at the Office for National Statistics, and I'm here to talk to you about measuring the economy. And that's an online resource and community that the ONS has developed. So there are four things which I want to cover in my presentation to you today. I want to talk about the genesis of the book, so where this has come from, how we've worked to produce it, what's in it, and then how we're building a community around it. So firstly, let me talk to you about the genesis of the book. The origin of the book actually goes back a few years to the independent review of UK economic statistics. That took place over 2016 and was conducted by Professor Sir Charles Bean, former Deputy Governor at the Bank of England and Chief Economist. And he was commissioned by the then Chancellor, George Osborne, to conduct a review of the UK's economic statistics. And the things he was asked to consider were: what might the future statistical needs of the UK be? How effective is the ONS in delivering those statistics? And is the governance framework best supporting the production of these statistics? And Professor Bean produced his report, which you're able to look at. And that sparked a quite significant programme of transformation of economic statistics within the ONS. And the sorts of things that we've done I've set out here. In particular, we've been increasing the capacity and capability of our analysts, so recruiting greater numbers of analysts and increasing the analytical skills of all our staff. We've also become much more outward-facing and collaborative in terms of working with academia and other experts. We've created two new bodies, the Economic Statistics Centre of Excellence and the ONS Data Science Campus. And lastly, and most relevant for this presentation, we've been trying to get economic measurement issues back on the agenda in schools, in universities, and in research. I'll confess that when I joined the ONS at about the same time as Professor Bean published his report, I hadn't personally given much consideration to some of the really tricky measurement issues which the ONS now finds. For example, how to deal with digital products, free products, where the production boundary sits, accounting for home production, these sorts of quite tricky issues. And we thought it was worthwhile pushing to get measurement back on the agenda. And part of that is the creation of the Measuring the Economy book. I'll say a little bit now about how we've worked to produce it, and then I'll give a demonstration of its contents. This isn't something that ONS has done by itself. We have adopted what we think of as being a highly collaborative approach. So we've made use of the ONS's own experts in-house, and we have some really bright and experienced people who know their fields very well. We've also made use of the ONS Fellows. That's a group of external advisors who we're able to draw on to help us in particular project work, and indeed another broader set of academic experts. We've done this properly with an editorial board to think about the contents as we've been going along. And we worked with our supplier, the Electric Bookworks, to develop and publish it. And they've brought additional skills which we don't have in-house in terms of technical editor, development editor, and copy editor. Fair to say, I think that we've found this to be quite a challenging project. We haven't previously published something of this scale of ambition. It's very different in its content to the usual bulletins and analysis that we put out there. Those are generally written in quite short timescales and are targeted at a slightly different audience. We've also found that delivering a really high quality product and doing the editing does take a little while longer than we might have thought. But we've got some really good benefits out of it. I think we've formed a really enthusiastic and committed team. It is exciting doing something new and innovative. It's been quite good fun. I think all of us have learned new skills about how online resources are produced, how academic or quasi-academic literature is written. And we've made a number of new connections across academia, with our publishers and with users. And I'll say a little bit more about that later on. So let's turn to what is in the book. You can find it at this link at measuringtheeconomy.uk. And now I'm going to go to that. So if you click on that link, go to measuringtheeconomy.uk, that takes you to our front page. And this sets out a short introduction as to why the book has been written, and also a few kind words from Andy Haldane, Chief Economist at the Bank of England, who's been very supportive in this project. So on the left-hand side here, you can see the contents of the online book, and that sets out all the different chapters which have either been produced or will be produced. Most of the material is now in existence. There are 1 or 2 chapters still to come. We also have at the bottom a set of appendices. We begin with an introduction that sets out a bit more detail as to the background of the book, and particularly the contribution of the late Peter Sinclair, Emeritus Professor of Economics at Birmingham University and one of our fellows, who originally suggested that having an online book might be a useful way to deal with some of these aspects of economic measurement. I'll now go into one of the chapters. I'll pick Measuring Inflation, and that just sets out a little bit for you as to how the chapters look. They're fairly similar in terms of their style and content. They do vary a little bit according to the subject matter. So this is the Measuring Inflation chapter written by Jill Leyland. We begin by setting out a number of key questions, which we then answer through the material in the book. We start with an interesting introduction, setting out some of the reasons why we think that the material might be of interest. In this case, we talk a little bit about hyperinflation, particularly the most recent experience of Venezuela, also historically, hyperinflation in Germany, Hungary, Zimbabwe, and the rest. And we just give a little bit of story there as to why we think these are interesting issues which are worth considering. Here are the different sections within this chapter. Again, chapters vary a little bit, but broadly speaking, they set out some of the hows and whys of the topic in question. They set out some of the controversies, so some of the reasons, again, why this might be of interest. Each chapter has a summary, some links to further reading, and then footnotes. So just to give you an idea of the style, let me expand this section on compiling an index. And we've used a mixture of text, of diagrams, and of charts as we've gone along, just to set out what we want to communicate. We use a sidebar for additional resource, interesting links, things which we think the reader might want to click through. We set out some of the practical things, how it's done within the ONS or other national statistical institutes. We do get into some formulae and algebra. It's accessible. This is generally aimed at sort of undergraduate level, so we're quite comfortable with putting in this amount of detail. In this case, we're talking about the different measures of inflation, so Dutot and Carney and Jevons. We give a worked example, so setting out in this case a number of price levels at different points in time for different products, and then how they can be combined in order to give you the different inflation measures. And again, we go through some how it's done and some worked examples. And so, as I said earlier, that broad structure is carried through the rest of the book for the different chapters. And we carry on with that same sort of mix of text, of diagrams, tables, worked examples to make it real and make it accessible for the reader. So I said in my earlier comments that this isn't just an online resource. We are interested in building a community around it. So we will keep the book updated. I think it would be a poor investment in time if we were to write this once and let it get out of date very quickly. So we will be introducing additional sections in the near future for things like the impact of COVID-19 on measuring the economy, making sure the links and the data are kept up to date, and changing the economic story where it's appropriate. However, rather than it just being an ONS product, we're very keen to develop a user community around it. And this, please, is where you come in. Do please have a look at it. We'd be really pleased to get your feedback on the different chapters in the book. We'd be very interested to hear your point of view on the book's value as a teaching resource. It is there to be used. As I said earlier, we think it's pitched at undergraduate level, second and third years, but we'd be really interested to hear how you think it can be used as a teaching resource. And then we'd like to engage with a group of what we're calling super users who want to engage with a sort of deeper level on taking this further. And that might be in terms of how the book can be used as background for essays, for exams, worked examples, problem sets, these sorts of things. We're really open to your feedback and to those of you who want to get involved in working with us in more detail on this. We have a small group of super users already, and we're really grateful for their contributions, but we'd love to hear more from other people. So if you want to find out more and get involved, again, there is the link, measuringtheeconomy.uk. And if you want to contact us directly, the email address is there, measuring.theeconomy@ons.gov.uk. So do please get involved, do please contact us, and we look forward to hearing from you. Hope you found that useful. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.